Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me today as we're going to discuss the major astrology of June 2026. As this is a month of significant transitions and changes, especially as we're going to see Chiron enter Taurus on June 19th and Jupiter enter Leo at the end of the month on June 29th. So right there where we have these two outer planets changing signs, there is significance in what our own energy fields are feeling and how we're moving into new territory. In addition to those shifts, we also have Mercury entering Cancer on June 1st, where it will stay until August 9th. Yes, we are going to have Mercury in Cancer for over 2 months because of the upcoming retrograde that begins the end of June. And in addition to that, we also are going to see Uranus in Gemini squaring the nodes of fate throughout the month. This is where we're actually in the final month with the North Node in Pisces and the South Node in Virgo. And then here comes Uranus in Gemini squaring these energies and breaking us out of any lower Virgo expressions. So I'm actually going to start with this energy because it is strong throughout the whole month of June. Then we'll move into more of the specifics of the astrological transits this month. Uranus has newly arrived in Gemini, where it will stay until 2033. Uranus is strong and active in Gemini, which is connected to what we're ready to think, process, understand, and contemplate at a whole new level of our own intellectual awareness. This is expansive to our everyday conscious mental process. And with this Uranus in Gemini interacting with the South Node in Virgo and the North Node in Pisces, there are jolts to parts of ourselves that we are ready to evolve. Now, this particular square is going to be occurring at 2 degrees of each sign, but because the North Node and South Node and Uranus move so slowly, the energy is active throughout all of June. So you would want to identify in your chart where you have 2 and 3 degrees of the mutable signs, as this will be working most personally with planets and points at 2 and 3 degrees of Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. You could even extend it to 0 degrees and 4 degrees of those signs, as 0 to 4 degrees of the mutable signs will be active into July as well. Now keep in mind, Uranus moves direct at this time from 2 to 3 degrees, but the North Node and South Node move retrograde from 3 degrees back to 0 degrees. So that's why there is this span of active degree points in your chart. So what Uranus is going to do is change your perception around something that the Virgo energies have been sitting with, thinking through, and contemplating. And I feel that is one of the strongest energies here because Uranus is in Gemini, a mental sign ruled by Mercury, and the South Node is in Virgo, also a mental sign ruled by Mercury. So here comes Uranus electrifying what that South Node in Virgo is learning to do differently. This means you could have some of the lower expressions or shadow energies in Virgo that are being jolted awake with new conceptions of possibilities, ideas, and approaches. So Uranus is basically sending a lightning shock wave to these Virgo energies, saying it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to know the full plan. It doesn't all need to be neatly organized and structured in a way that gives you a clear process or path. Sometimes that Virgo energy can become too minimizing. It can look for a guarantee or look for a sure thing in order to know what to expect, what to do, how to prepare. There's a desire here that often comes from a very good place of, I want to do my best. I want to do something in the highest and best way. I want it to go perfectly. I want it to be of service. There's a part of me that wants to get it right. And this Uranus in Gemini is busting through those limitations and saying there's things here that just need to move ahead and move forward. And it's meant to set you free from the overthinking, over planning, minimizing, simplifying, and missing out on the big picture, which is that North Node in Pisces that says you don't know what can happen. You don't know where this can go. Stay open because it could be even better than the mind can understand right now. And you certainly can't plan for it when you're connected to the spiritual energetics of potentials and miracles. So this is basically busting us out of where we're seeking known clarity, and instead evolving us. I see it as spiraling us up into a higher place of just trusting the energetics and setting yourself free from any like mental hostage position. I don't know why I'm saying that, but setting you free from anything that's actually holding back where your energy wants to express itself or wants to move, because that North Node in Pisces is very open and free, and it flows and it moves and it trusts its intuition. And I feel that part of what this Uranus is saying is that it's exciting not to know. It's exciting to move forward and to see what happens because this is where you are more deeply connecting with your intuition, your spiritual trust, your emotional intelligence, and your higher guidance navigation system. And so I'm seeing this energy. It's really interesting. I'm seeing how it could be connected to the nervous system, seeking safety. It could also be the nervous system feeling overstimulated and needing to calm, exhale, and release, which also happens through that North Node in Pisces. Maybe there have been some anxiety loops, hypercriticism, information overload, obsessive thinking. In order to figure it all out, let me figure everything out so that I know what's going to happen or so that I know how this will unfold. And yet the energy is asking for surrender. And in order to surrender, you might be formulating a new way to perceive the unknown, where it's not just about logic or the details or a clear plan, but you are newly orienting yourself to connect the limitations of the mind and our nervous system to a bigger, more trusting energy field. And I'm seeing it as a miracle matrix energy that is expanding us. Now, it's interesting because the South Node and the North Node, as they move retrograde, they get to the 0 point of each sign before transitioning to the next sign. So in late July, the North Node moves from 0 degrees of Pisces to 29 degrees of Aquarius. And then the South Node in Virgo moves into Leo. So they reach a 0 degree point that is clearing the field, so to speak. It's eliminating any energies, debris, or unfinished expressions that you have been working through and harnessing the higher expressions of each sign. So we are in that territory of a 0 point, which brings us into a very interesting karmic clearing point with that North Node in Pisces. And I feel like there is going to be new stories written and new narratives understood as well with this transiting energy. I'm going to discuss it more in a separate podcast episode because there's a lot more we can dig into here. But essentially throughout the month of June, It feels like you might have an increase in trusting the unknown, in moving with an energy bigger than your mind, bigger than logic, and knowing that this is a part of your intelligence. This is a part of what you have access to that isn't of the mind. It is from your intuition and your spiritual self. And I'm also seeing it connected to the heart because there is compassion here with the North Node in Pisces. So it feels like there's going to be some big mental shifts in understanding what you're ready to move towards next, which is that North Node in Pisces. I also feel like there's something about just settling in to trusting your own process. I'm feeling that as part of this compassion energy, where there are times in life when it's okay to honor your process and what you're feeling and what you're going through. And don't feel like you're going to miss anything that is for you or for your best and highest good. There's a sense of settling into what is correct for you and arriving when it's time, trusting that as well. Because this is often a slower moving energy when we look at the North Node in Pisces and South Node in Virgo. So these energies can remain on a slower timeline, if you will, but as Uranus and Gemini squares them, that's where the electrical current comes in. That's where there's something that could shock the system, but I feel like it's going to be that instantaneous knowingness of this is what I need to do, or this is what's ready, or this is how I'm ready. And there could be something that surprises you in how quickly it shifts. So say, for example, you were taking your time, or there was something that you were planning and thinking about, and all of a sudden, maybe even overnight, all of that changes and you see it in a whole new way, a whole new light. And I feel that this energy could happen multiple times throughout June. So again, this is a big part of the month of June, is that you might be surprised at your new perceptions, your new awareness, and the new ways you're ready to move forward that perhaps you felt were slow moving previously. And so what makes this even more interesting is that not only is that unfolding throughout June, but Mercury enters Cancer on June 1st and stays there until August 9th because of the upcoming Mercury retrograde that begins the end of June. That will start on June 29th at 26 degrees of Cancer. I'll be doing a separate podcast episode for you discussing that Mercury retrograde. But this is important because Mercury is the ruling planet of Gemini. So as I just discussed, how this Uranus in Gemini moves quickly and is shocking in its revelations and understandings, well, the ruling planet of Mercury is in the heart of Cancer, is in the empathetic, sensitive, caring energy of this first water sign. So there could be something that is coming alive for you in your heart. It could be like new shock waves, new understandings, new levels of empathy. You could feel your heart is growing in June, that it's expanding. This is also going to be bringing us into greater awareness of what is on our hearts that we need to communicate, share, or be more expressive with. But Mercury in Cancer starts off shy, internal, vulnerable, and sensitive. So we're moving through a process here of understanding what we really feel and perhaps wanting to feel strong around it, wanting to feel clear, wanting to feel that it's something that we understand before we share it, write it, or do anything with it. That's because Mercury in Cancer is internal. And so more people could be in their own private worlds this month, contemplating things, thinking it through at a more personal level, wanting to understand, what do I need here? And what am I learning to trust in myself? Now, this Mercury is traveling behind Jupiter in Cancer, and they never have an exact conjunction. That's because of the Mercury retrograde that happens on the same day that Jupiter enters Leo. That occurs on June 29th. June 29th is actually a very big day in June, and that's because there's not only the Mercury retrograde begins, Jupiter enters Leo, there's also a Capricorn full moon. So the end of the month is going to be interesting in terms of what has gained strength within us. And I'm feeling too, like as June unfolds, there's going to be new things that you finally feel you can trust in yourself, that there's going to be a new place of internal safety in trusting your own voice, your own needs, your own truth. Not only is Mercury in Cancer, but Venus is in Cancer until June 13th. So there is a softer frequency here in June that we're all going to be feeling. You could even feel more sensitive, more aware of your environments, maybe even just needing more time to yourself to process through the energies and listen to what is going on in your own world. And so this also is going to highlight connections, relationships, and interactions that are more heart-based, that are opening us up to what we want to share with others, as well as necessary boundaries that will be needed. That's because with strong water signs here, with Mercury in Cancer and Venus in Cancer, we need to have boundaries so that we're not overpouring or overflowing into others without nurturing ourselves. So that will be part of the dance here in June, is to ensure that you're aware of what you need, how to fill up your own cup, and how to honor boundaries as needed. So this is a month to practice your no thank you. That doesn't work for me right now. Or I'm not available, I'm really busy this weekend. Can we look at another date, another time? There could be a sense that life is busier in June, and yet we're also realizing we have limitations on what we can give or do that are actually exhausting us. So one theme of June is to stay alert and aware of your own emotional and physical energies, to make sure that you're not overbooking, overdoing, overthinking, but you're giving yourself that downtime as needed to keep your energy in balance. So in addition to this Uranus squaring the nodes of fate and Mercury beginning his journey in Cancer this month, we also have Chiron entering Taurus on June 19th. Chiron will get to 0 degrees of Taurus and stay in this sign until September 17th, then returns to Aries for about 6 months, and then re-enters Taurus next April 14th, 2027. So we have a 3-month period of time of Chiron entering into Taurus. And how Chiron works as it changes signs is that Chiron reveals what needs to be healed. And because of this, Chiron brings in some kind of new awareness around what is broken, hurt, injured, or weak. Chiron can trigger a crisis, a pain, or a damage that then needs to be healed and fixed. And so we're going to be sampling these energies for 3 months here. And because Chiron remains at 0 degrees of Taurus, we're going to get a new lay of the land of what is not sustainable, what is not working, where there are faults, issues, and problems that need to be practically addressed and realistically solved in Taurus. Taurus is fixed earth. It is the first earth sign of the zodiac wheel, and it brings us into our foundation, our primal needs, and our 5 senses. So Taurus is how we build a life that is meaningful and satisfying, and we base it on our values, what's important to us. And as Chiron enters Taurus, we're going to have new understandings around what we really need and what we do not. And this Chiron in Taurus is also going to bring up lack, limitations, and loss to show us what is really meaningful and what is not. So at a more practical level, this is where we're going to see changes in physical products, distribution, and resources. This could mean you go to the store and instead of having 5 choices on the shelf, you have 2 I realize that depends on where you live. Because, of course, some countries have a plethora of options and other locations you only have one choice. So this is going to be interesting in terms of how it plays out in different communities, environments, and countries. But Chiron in Taurus is going to bring up where there are problems with physical distribution. This can be seen through the supply chains, through products and manufacturing, through retail. There's also going to be a cutting back in certain industries. And this includes where people spend their disposable income. So this is going to affect many industries, businesses, and companies as they realize what is not selling, what is not working, where there is no longer a response. I think that this will primarily affect retail, entertainment, restaurants, hospitality, tourism, also anything that involves gas and oil, which we know is a big part of import exports, which is the livelihood of import exports, travel, airfare, trains, cars, vehicles, cargo ships. They're all feeling the rise in gas and oil. And of course, that gets trickled down in their pricing to the consumer. So this is when these changes hit the consumer more personally and more powerfully. And this is where people start cutting back on going out to dinner or in investing in certain vacations or spending excess amounts on clothing, shoes, goods. All of that is going to be impacted here with this Chiron in Taurus, which is your money, the individual's salary, income, savings, personal investments, and what you are determining is important. So we're making new choices about how we spend our money and why as Chiron moves into Taurus. One of the effects at a very practical level is the lack of fertilizer, and how fertilizer, of course, is needed in farming and agriculture in order to grow vegetables and wheat and soybeans and everything that comes from the earth. Well, with the lack of fertilizer, it is affecting what can be grown. And this is not something that we, the consumer, notice or experience right away. So in a sense, we've been unaware of the upcoming consequences to how this will affect us. All of the canned food, canned vegetables, canned goods currently in the stores is connected to last year's harvest. So if you're looking at canned peas, canned green beans, whatever the case may be, all of that is from last year. And so this is where we're meant to forecast realistically at how will our food supply and our everyday needs be affected if this year there is not a bounty of harvest and there is a lack of growth of food. And so that is part of Chiron in Taurus, is that we're looking at our everyday resources, including food, clothing, water, basic supplies, and determining not only what we need, but where it comes from. There are fruits and vegetables imported from Mexico that may have a slowdown, for example, over the next few months. There are goods and products imported from China, as we know, from Asia, from Europe, that come into the U.S., not to mention the global supply chain and distribution networks that are in play that are also affected. So this is where we need to be thinking more long term, to not only be looking at what is on the shelves right now, but to understand how these systems work, how vast they are, because it's very easy to take them for granted. I mean, here in the US, it's easy to go into a big warehouse and have a lot of options or supplies available. But over the next few years, that is going to change when we look at the astrology. And it's not only this Chiron going into Taurus, but also we're going to have Saturn in Taurus in 2028. And Chiron and Saturn are going to be conjunct in Taurus, really bringing our attention to what we need and what is essential, as well as how we are becoming more skilled, educated, and aware. So this is what we are moving into here, the middle of 2026. It is a bit of a heads up, clearly a significant heads up that Taurus themes and resources are going to be limited and potentially in a state of crisis so that we can have new alternative solutions. And part of how Chiron works is Chiron reveals what we didn't know before, the unexpected medicine, the new remedy, the new solutions. And this is part of the creative force of Chiron that we want to be empowered with. You want to say, okay, the old system doesn't work. Let's set about figuring out the new system. What is good for my neighborhood or for my community? What is something that I can do or I can create to offer a potential solution or option? It also means that some things you previously relied upon are not going to be as readily available. And it depends on where they're grown. So here I am in Florida, and this is the land of citrus fruits that are distributed all around the world. And depending on how things go with gas and oil prices, that distribution may not have a far reach. And if it does, it means that the orange juice or grapefruit juice near you is going to be very expensive in order to get it to your neighborhood. These are the kinds of things we want to educate ourselves on and be aware of. And this is where you want to start figuring out alternative solutions and how you can approach these changes with great awareness and education. And so again, that Chiron enters Taurus on June 19th. Now I want to skip to the end of the month here on June 29th when Jupiter enters Leo for the first time in 12 years. Because this will be a bold, creative, positive shift in what Jupiter is here to expand. But it also means that Jupiter in Leo is going to be squaring that Chiron in Taurus as well, amplifying what we need to see and bringing our awareness to the new creative solutions that we can develop and invest in. Now, Jupiter entering Leo is going to expand our sense of personal power, self-leadership, bold, courageous actions. It's going to expand our light. I feel like it's going to be a deep activation of the light body, especially as it stems from the solar plexus. I think it's also going to expand our ability to be confident, bold, and powerful creators of our new reality, especially in this new Earth transition. And so as Jupiter moves into Leo, again, starting on June 29th, Jupiter is going to move quickly through Leo as it will get to 27 degrees of Leo by December. And so there's going to be a lot going on here that you could feel comes to life. Leo is the fifth sign of the zodiac. It is fixed fire, and it's a very determined energy that wants you to feel alive with a life force that is sustainable, reliable, and powerful. So there could be an activation here of your own creative instincts, of your heart, of your joy, of what lights you up. It can also give you the desire to take a risk on something because it's you, because you feel you have to do it. You have to go there. You have to create it. This Jupiter in Leo is also going to bring alive our desire to go for what we want, even if it's wild, different, and new. This can be very competitive energy, which relates directly to recreation, pleasure, joy. In other words, things are about to get really fierce on those pickleball courts because Jupiter in Leo is going to be like, I will win at all costs. This energy can be a lot at times. It can also be too showy, too self-involved, too demonstrative, too flashy, dramatic, or reckless. So we'll talk about this more as we move through June. I'll have a separate show for you on Jupiter and Leo. But this is another transition here in June as Jupiter moves from the loving, caring energy of Cancer, where we have been reviewing matters of the past, old memories, old parts of ourselves that we're learning from and evolving, and then moving it into that Leo place of personal strength and creative life force. There's definitely going to be an uptick as well in the Leo themes of love, dating, romance, and connection. This is where you might have a desire to be seen, to put yourself out there, to be bolder in connecting with people or meeting people. I feel this is also important as we move into the second half of this year, where there are going to be more love relationships occurring with Jupiter and Leo. There's going to be more divine unions, sacred partnerships. Romance overall is going to increase with Jupiter and Leo. This also connects to the inner child, playfulness, and having fun. And that's also going to be an energy that increases in the collective here with this transit, where you might be ready to just do something for fun, to not overthink it or to hold yourself back, but to be open to your own playful spirit and inner child that just wants to let loose and to be enjoying life. So again, this energy is going to be quite positive and uplifting. It also leads into July's big energy, which I'll talk about soon. But July is where this Jupiter in Leo is also strongly activated with trines to Neptune and Saturn in Aries, a sextile to Uranus in Gemini, and an opposition to Pluto in Aquarius. But at a personal level, you would want to look in your own chart at where you have Leo energies, because Jupiter is going to come into this part of your chart and make things easier. Jupiter is expansive and growth oriented. Jupiter can feel like finally something is happening or developing here, and that it happens quickly with that fire spirit. This also relates to how we are in the year of the fire horse. So now we have one more planet in fire signs: Jupiter in Leo, Neptune in Aries, Saturn in Aries, giving more energy, momentum, and creative life force to what you're moving towards and ready to experience. And so again, that occurs at the end of the month on June 29th. Now, during this podcast, I've covered the main astrology here of June. And important to note that it's the Wednesday weekly shows where I go through more of the specifics of each week. And that's because, of course, for the month ahead, there's a lot going on and it's hard to squeeze it all into one show. But a few other highlights of June to share with you is that on June 13th, Venus enters Leo, where she remains until July 10th. This is a strong, powerful Venus placement where she puts on her crown. She is ready to be seen and to do something that uniquely connects to her heart. This is a bold love, a strong presence, a commanding creative field with Venus in Leo. I will talk more about this Venus in the Wednesday podcast episodes. But also in June, we have Mars in Taurus for most of the month until he enters Gemini on June 28th. Mars in Taurus is determined, dedicated, and a thoughtful planner. This is where you could be ready to make improvements in your body or in your daily routines. Mars brings your attention to what works in Taurus, what pays off, what's worth the investment and the time. This is where Mars can also help you improve your finances, make some important realistic changes or choices that you could feel steady or stabilizing in. Mars in Taurus will also focus your attention on what is essential and what is not. That is a signature of all the earth signs, where you get rid of the excess and you don't overcommit, overdo, or overwork. Now, Mars in Taurus, because he is so determined, he will stay the course until the results show up and until the job is done. And so there could be overworking here in order to get to where you want to go. But I feel that this Mars in Taurus can also pace himself and be aware of how much you can do in a day and then wait until later the next day or later in the week to keep going and take the next steps. I feel this Mars in Taurus as a strong undercurrent of the month, where this is where you can stabilize your nervous system and look to what your body is feeling and what your body needs in order to stay connected to what's important to you. This is important because, as I mentioned at the start of the show, we have this erratic Uranus and Gemini squaring the nodes of fate in mutable signs. Then we have Mercury in Cancer and Venus in Cancer, water signs. And here's Mars basically holding court in a powerful position in an earth sign, a determined fixed earth sign. So this Mars in Taurus is going to help you feel grounded and clear, as well as honor boundaries and your personal needs and limitations. And then in terms of the lunar calendar this month, we're going to have a Gemini new moon on June 14th or 15th, depending on your time zone. And that will be happening at 24 degrees of Gemini in your chart. This will be a new moon that gives life to new ideas, plans, options, and choices. You may see something in a new light or in a new way. It could even be that having a conversation with another person is where something clicks and you understand the new beginning you're ready for, or new information you want to learn or obtain, as just a few examples. We'll, of course, talk about this Gemini new moon as we get closer to the middle of June, but I wanted to share that heads up for those of you who like to plan. And then we close out the month of June with a Capricorn full moon at 8 degrees. This is where the moon is at 8 degrees of Capricorn and the sun is at 8 degrees of Cancer. They are both squaring Neptune at 4 degrees of Aries. So there could be hesitation or doubt that shows up with a Neptune square that changes your best laid plans. But rather, another way to look at it is to keep it open. To stay open to something you didn't know was arriving or developing, because this Neptune in Aries is birthing something important that relates to your soul growth in this lifetime. Something has your name on it, and Neptune is bringing your attention to it. Neptune now being at 4 degrees of Aries, the furthest it's been in the sign. It means that you might feel very strong messages from your intuition that override your best laid plans or what that moon in Capricorn wants to manage and control. So again, that's at the end of the month on June 29th. We'll talk about that more as we reach that period of time, but just a heads up at how this month is going to unfold. Throughout June, world developments and changes are going to become more personal. And one of the best ways of navigating this month is to be in your creative power, to know that change is the only constant. And so what are you ready to do differently? And honestly, maybe you're not ready to do it differently, but there is pressure here and there is a new initiation in June of what we need to approach differently, where we need to open up our energy and be ready for new solutions, as well as to realistically understand some of the bigger developments that are happening in the world. Now, this is going to unfold probably quickly because of how fast-paced and accelerated the energies are, and they're only going to pick up as we move into the second half of this year. It is going to be December in no time. I am not kidding. I mean, just the fact that we're already entering June is wild, right? I mean, I remember we were just talking about the year of the fire horse starting, and that was in February. So this is also important to check in on your own concept of time, how you are honoring your time every day, your mental focus and your priorities. What are you investing in and putting energy towards that really matters to you? Because you might also realize what is not worth your time, what is a waste, what is not paying off, and what's not essential. And so keep that in mind here, that as the energies accelerate, we need to become more responsible with our concept of every day and our energy field within each day. You might be restructuring parts of your life so that it aligns with more of your long-term values and dreams. You might be seeing which relationships are mutual and beneficial and they give you life versus those that are burdensome or heavy and drain the life force out of you. You might see where your energy is paying off and what you enjoy, as well as what you no longer want to be tethered to or involved in. In other words, this is a time to love and prioritize your energy, your needs, and what you're here to do in this life. It can be very easy to get caught up on the hamster wheel of our days and to go through the motions and just be set in patterns. But we're in a paradigm shifting year that's meant to shake us free of old programming, old belief system, old ways of being that aren't in alignment with your own expansion and your own growth. We are moving further into new territory here with the astrology of 2026, and there's going to be shakeups, breakups, and greater awakenings that transpire. But who are you through it all? What do you count on within yourself? What do you know about your gifts, your talents, your abilities? And what are the dreams that inspire you? What are the bigger picture developments that you want to move towards and manifest in this life? It is time to be focused on what you can control, which is your energy, your mind, your emotions, your physical self, your actions, and your intentionality. So consider this a month that invites you in to more of who you are, into more of who you came here to be, and that it's right on time. That's one of the best things you can do at this point in your journey, wherever this finds you. This is a time to invest in your energy, your needs, yourself, to demonstrate that for others, perhaps, but to not diminish or reject or hide parts of yourself that are ready to come to life. This is a time to be you, to be authentically you. If you are not being authentically yourself, you're playing a losing game. That's a losing hand. That was going to end quickly. That is not going to take you as far as you deserve to go. That isn't going to feed your soul. So keep in mind that this is a time to embrace your authenticity, your individual energy field, and to love and accept that you are here to live a life unlike any other that your soul has ever experienced. This is a time when even more can manifest and develop for you rapidly and quickly in alignment with these faster moving energies. The astrology is picking up. Things are kicking into gear. We're moving at a higher Mach speed. And so this is where it's time to check in on your own choices and your own alignment. Are you allowing other people to hold you back? If so, you got to take responsibility for that. That's not their fault. That's your choice. You've got to be in full ownership of your choices and your energy. Are you slow in your roll because other people don't want you to do your own thing or be successful or follow your dreams? That's on you. That's where you have to step into, I am here to do what I need to do. And as you do so, you set other people free. You essentially change the collective field and send out a pulsing frequency that gives others the same choice, permission, and option to do the same. We are in a time where we're meant to individuate more quickly and more authentically. And the more you're able to do that and set yourself free from anything that's been restraining you, the more you're going to see the universe come through and support you in beautiful ways. And I'm not saying this is easy because there can be a lot of fear, but the remedy to that is greater courage. And we have that in Saturn in Aries, Neptune in Aries, and soon to be Jupiter in Leo. You're going to have more courage and strength to be yourself and to love who you are at a core level without needing anybody else to agree with you, to believe in you, or to even give you the affirmation to do so. This is where we're busting out of ways that we have unconsciously given our power away to others. And that's part of the shift of the ages, where we have been in the age of Pisces. We're moving into the age of Aquarius. The age of Pisces is where we believe that only a select few had connection to the divine. And so we would go into religious institutions or seek out spiritual leaders so that they could access the divine on our behalf and therefore allow us to connect with that supreme energy. But all of that was the illusion. The age of Pisces brought about many beautiful developments in terms of compassion, artistic talents, spiritual understandings, creative growth, and powerful empathy. But these might have been themes that were few and far between on a soul's path, because a lot of the age of Pisces was actually about false narratives, illusions, smoke and mirrors around control, power, manipulation, distracting us from our spiritual gifts and intuitive abilities, even denying us access to our free will and our power, often through persecution wounds, rejection wounds, feeling abandoned by God or spirit, feeling rejected, ostracized, marginalized. All of these are actually stronger themes for many souls, especially light workers. But this is what's changing. This is part of the evolution into more of the age of Aquarius, where you reclaim your unique DNA imprint and you reclaim your soul codes that are here to be on mission, on purpose, on your path, with a deep knowingness of how powerful, strong, and creative you are. But the age of Aquarius is also where we're looking at themes of belonging, fitting in, overthinking, holding back from our own unique paths, requiring consensus in order to move forward, or believing that we need others in order to fit in or be successful. So this is a time to stand strong in more of what you're learning about yourself, and to also take greater responsibility for any limiting choices or belief systems that are meant to evolve and fall away, especially here in 2026. And so these could be themes for you throughout June or into the second half of this year. This is just a reminder to love yourself more, choose yourself powerfully, honor your needs authentically, be in such a supreme state of connection to your soul that can't be compromised, diminished, or removed. And that's part of the healing of this lifetime and of this period of time on the planet. I just felt all this energy come through so strong as I was ready to close out this podcast. So I added all this in at the end unexpectedly, but I hope it helps you in making the right choices next on your path. I hope this also gives you reminders of your own soul's wisdom at this time. So as always, thank you so much for joining me for the podcast. I'll be back every Wednesday and Monday for a new episode as always. And be sure to check out my YouTube channel where I release a lot of videos, and you'll find many playlists with different types of videos. So if you are new to astrology, you want to go to the Start Here playlist. I also have separate playlists about birth years. There are some birth years where souls arrive with some very big, intense aspects in their natal astrology chart. So I go through a bunch of those. I have different videos discussing the astrology signs for each midheaven, as well as your ascendant and descendant. And then, of course, more short videos discussing the major astrology that we're moving through for each year. So I just wanted to reference my YouTube channel because those are all free videos for you to watch whenever you have time. But ultimately, I hope they all bring you into greater connection with your own personal energy and your astrology chart. Have a beautiful day ahead wherever this finds you. Wishing you a beautiful, powerful June, and I'll see you back here soon.